my second daughter starts presenting with food allergy symptoms shortly after she's born. And I went all the way back, right? I had PTSD. I went all the way back to this entire year that I spent absolutely terrified of food because I was told that if I accidentally ate something, I would poison my baby for 2 weeks at a time. And being in so many situations of like, your mom forgetting that butter is made out of cow's milk and you've consumed it, and it's not just you that's going to be impacted, it's your baby that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt because you ate something that you put in your mouth. I can tell you from my soul that like I truly feel like I lost my newborn year with my oldest, because being able to have like that connection and that love and truly enjoy that time.
You're in a science experiment, basically. I mean,
I'm in a giant science experiment. Yep. So I was, and it was a series of strange events during my pregnancy that led me to running a lab for a dairy processing facility in the town that we lived in. And so I'm back to work early again, unfortunately, because this was a newer position for me. And
welcome to being a mom in America. Yeah. Hi.
Yes, another conversation for another podcast. Back at work, I am on an elimination diet again, right? I have removed a slew of things, and I am teaching lab techs how to use a simple little test, what you and I would think of like a COVID test, or an at-home COVID test, or an at-home pregnancy test. These simple little test strips to detect cross-contamination of allergens in our facility. So if we're running cow's milk protein on a piece of equipment, and then we're running soy on that same piece of equipment, we have to prove to the FDA and auditors we don't accidentally cross-contact those things and elicit an allergic response in the general public. And I have this moment of like, holy shit, how do we do this for cows? We don't do this for women. It would change my entire journey if I could just test my breast milk.
Can that be the title, by the way? How do we do this for cows when we don't do this for women? I mean, it just sums so much up. Yeah. So you take that technology or that thought process and create your own technology to test breast milk.
Yes. And that was the start of Free to Feed. I founded Free to Feed a few weeks postpartum with my second daughter, with the hopes of taking the information that we actually had, the research that we actually had, to turn the tide on all the misinformation that families get around food allergies, breastfeeding, transfer, that their baby's not allergic to their breast milk, all the other BS that they get, to change the tide there. And truly, the number one way to empower families in this journey is to give them the power, give them the data. And so I was like, if there was a simple test strip like this, they could do it at home. They would just know anytime exactly what's in their breast.
So let me rephrase then. You don't test the breast milk. You let breast milk producers test their own breast milk for?
Our first focus is the top 12 infant food allergies. And so what you'll notice in the infant food allergy space is most of the time these infants have non-IgE mediated food allergies, things like FPIES, allergic procticulitis, EOE, and the foods that are more likely to elicit those types of responses don't match one for one the top 8 or 9. So some of them are the same: cow's milk, soy, wheat, egg, peanuts, tree nuts. But instead of fish and shellfish, which I myself have an IgE shellfish allergy, instead of those, it's more likely for an infant to be reactive to oats, corn, rice, legumes, these other foods that are more probable to be eliciting responses in infants that cause these non-IgE mediated responses. So our very first test strip to market will detect cow's milk protein in the presence of human milk. And then once we get the feedback from the market of like, I love this, I hate this, it's hard to read, whatever it might be, we already have all the data and capabilities to add the rest of the top 12 to a single test.
That's amazing. I made it through the hard parts without crying. We get to the punchline, if you will, and there come the tears. Ugh, the emotional release of being able to see that.
The fact that you would have been able to, through your breast early, determine what it was that was eliciting a response for your baby, because you would know what's in your breast, and then be able to go back to that breast milk stash and test for that allergen, it would have completely changed your journey. I know it would have changed mine. So I spent the last 4 years getting grants and
that was a
investor
good sigh, by
funding.
the way. It wasn't a frustrated with it. It's like a, oh my God, like what a life-changing thing. And truly, I don't know that I've ever had, I mean, I've done a lot of these episodes, right? And I've talked to a lot of people from a lot of different companies, a lot of different allergen stuff. And I don't know that I've ever had this type of gut-wrenching response to, I really wish that this had existed for me.
Me too. So over the last 4 years, since starting Free to Feed, I have focused on getting grants and investor funding to make this a reality. The answer to the reason why we do this for cows and we don't do this for women is because men don't lactate.
Yep.
And the reason why that test strip that day, so that day at my work, I had this epiphany moment and I ran into a closet and I squirted some breast milk on the thing because I was just desperate. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the answer to all my problems today. And it didn't work. And I was just devastated.
Well, because the technology needed to be updated a smidge in order to be humanified as opposed to cowified.
Exactly.
Essentially.
So when I started digging into like, okay, why doesn't it work? I want it to work. The answer to that was that no one up until that point had determined exactly what does a peanut look like when it enters your breast, because these tests are built to look for soy in its whole form or soy in a more whole form, as opposed to after you've digested it and it's transferred from your digestion, your circulatory system to your breast. And thankfully, we don't shoot peanuts out of our nipples. That'd be super, super painful. But little fragments of peanuts is what we transfer. And what's been fascinating then is in all of this research, we've been able to start to fully understand transferability of dietary proteins to our breast, the time that it takes to clear exactly what it does it look like, and then be able to understand why does some infants react through the breast and some don't, right? Some families don't find out that their baby has food allergies till they start solids, baby has a piece of cheese, and it's a huge surprise, they have a big reaction. Versus you and I, who had that early red flag of eczema or GI issues, colic, whatever it may be, through our breast. And so now we can understand or wrap our brains around why that's the case and truly understand that it's not the parent's fault in any way, shape, or form. They've done nothing wrong. It is the stars aligning between these two different bodies and two different things happening at the same time.